Well, good day to you all. Welcome to Realism, the podcast, a show that is passionate about the film world and all the universes within it. My name is Christian Spivey. I'm soloing this episode today, and we're going to talk about movies that don't need sequels. I have about 10 films that I want to tell you about that don't need sequels. They should not have sequels. I know some of them have probably made sequels, but never released them, which proves my point. And um, and some of them will have potential talks about sequels. But these films, I have no idea if they are officially making sequels to them. Some of them maybe, I don't think all of them. Some of them already have, but some of them should never, ever, ever, ever make a sequel to these films. Let's get started. Actually, I lied. Before we get started, I wanted to tell you guys about this book that I'm reading. It has a film adaptation coming out in October, I believe. Leonardo DiCaprio is starring. He's back with Martin Scorsese, as Scorsese has just been annihilating the film world his whole life. But Killer of the Flower Moon, I rented it from my local library. It is a great read so far. Most book adaptations are not that good. We've talked about previous in season 1 with Hannah, but this one's really good, and the movie looks fantastic. I think they're going to do a really good job. I have high hopes for it, but obviously I wanted to read a book before the movie came out, and I just wanted to encourage people to do that also. If there's a book or if there's a film adaptation from a book coming out, I highly encourage you to read the book. I'm going to start doing that so I can have a comparison's sake and really just like deep dive. I'm not going to do book reviews, but I will do alongside. I won't do in-depth book reviews, but I will do it alongside the film after I've seen the film. So I'll just be like, hey, like this is my rating for the book, and then this is the film, and blah 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 blah. Like just download the information to you. But without further ado, let's get started. All right, the first film we have up is The Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. It is a science fiction action film that is just incredible. When I say incredible, it's just like epic and just like unique in itself, and it was just like it ended really well, and of course it set itself up for a potential sequel. And I know that they're talking about a potential sequel, but in my opinion, I don't think this movie should ever have a sequel. I think it ended really well. I think you told the story that you needed to tell. I don't think you need any sequel or spin-offs or prequel. Like, I don't know, that's just my opinion. I thought it was so good, just end on a high, but I know studios want to make money, so just for the love of Gandhi and all things holy, do not make a sequel to that movie. Anyway, the next one, I think they already have made a sequel. I think they're in post-production, or they're just on their way to making or pre-production for this film, but I think they're already making a sequel for this film. I think they're in pre-production right now. And honestly, it's been years, so it really doesn't make sense. They're getting a good cast in it, and I don't know what Ridley Scott is doing, but the Gladiator was just amazing. It's almost a borderline masterpiece as far as film goes, and you don't need to make a sequel for it. But they already are. But that was on my list, I think, before the announcement of it. Because I've been working on this list here and there. That's why there's a part 1 to it, but I don't think Gladiator should be released. That's just my opinion, but it might. And of course, I'll see it. But other than that, didn't think it should have been made. It's just like really good. Like, that's just me. Baby Driver is next. Baby Driver is an Edgar Wright film. It is an incredible film. It had a great story. It ended well. It kind of just sealed the deal at the end of it. Like, you didn't have to it didn't leave you on a cliffhanger. You just know. Like, they write letters to each other, Deborah and Miles, who is also a baby, throughout the whole film until we find out at the end. Spoiler alert. You've had 4 or 5 years to see that movie. You had 6 years to see that movie. So calm down if you're mad about the spoiler. But yeah, it ended with them just like being together, and then him getting out of prison and her being there for him, and like it was just a beautiful ending. Like, it just ended how it should have ended, and it doesn't need a sequel, honestly. Like, you could go further with it, but you don't. That's it. Like, it ended well. Just leave it. Like, leave it alone. It's a great movie. Up next is a comedy that I don't know if they I haven't heard anything that running a sequel for this, but I just wanted to put on the list because it was just like it's a legendary film. Like as far as in the comedic world, it stars Will Ferrell, and it's a great film as far as like comedy goes, and I don't think it needs a sequel ever because it's gold. It's literally one of the most quotable comedies that I know, at least. And everyone just loved it when it came out. Everyone can still watch it every once in a while. It's not like the best film of all time, but I just don't think it needs a sequel whatsoever. I haven't heard anything from it, and I hope I don't. But Step Brothers should never get a sequel made. Hear me now. Step Brothers, don't do it. As far as the sequel goes, I'll just leave it at that. Fair warning, Step Brothers is a raunchy comedy, so if you're not into raunchy comedies, like, don't watch it. But it is hilarious in its own right. Like, I don't know, it's just a legendary comedy film as far as comedy goes. Up next, they did make a sequel for this film, but they never released it officially, and I'm glad they didn't because I don't think they need to. I think it just, like again, it ended well. It was like that movie that was done, and nobody wants to see the characters as adults, in my opinion, now, even though some of them are really big stars and some of them have hit the big screen, like Kiki Kwan and Josh Brolin. But nobody really wants to. I'm just saying, nobody really wants to see this sequel because it would be hard, and I don't want to see like the kids of this kid's film. But Goonies does not need a sequel. It didn't need a sequel. I mean, it proved, like I said at the beginning, they never released a sequel because it didn't need one, and it shouldn't have been made. Now, if I ever get my hands on that, and if I ever have the opportunity to watch that made sequel, I will watch that film. But honestly, I don't think it should have been made. And honestly, I think everyone agreed because it never got released. I think the studio just said, nope, don't do that. I think you can find the trailer maybe on YouTube somewhere, if it's still out there. But I saw the trailer. It was just adult Goonies. Like, I think the premise of it was like their dad died, and there was more to their town and maps that he said, and then they kept going into the mystery. It's like if y'all have families and all that, why are you doing like adventurous kid things? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't think it would have done well, but I'm glad it didn't come out because it didn't need it. Next one is I don't know. Pixar is very they love doing sequels decades after it's been made, or years after it's been made. I understand like those films take a long time to be made, but I don't think this Pixar film in particular needs a sequel. I think it ended perfectly. I have not heard anything of the sort of making a sequel for it, so that's a good thing. But Ratatouille is gold, Pixar gold. I can watch that movie by myself or with my wife or anybody any day of the week. It is up there for me, and it is borderline a perfect Pixar film. So if you do not make a sequel to this film, Pixar, and obviously I can't stop them from doing it, I just don't think it should be made. I think it's like literally ended perfectly well for its story, and it's just like, wow, like you can't, I don't know why I did that. That was so. Anyway, don't make Ratatouille 2. Don't make Ratatouille. That's what they would call it, probably. Ratatouille. Like, 2 in the title. Probably wouldn't, but still. I know that his last Studio Ghibli, I know that his last film just came out recently with no advertising whatsoever or marketing for the film, no trailers or whatnot. The Heroine, I believe it's called, but that's not what I'm talking about. I think one of his films, I don't think it'll ever get a sequel because of that reason alone, but I don't think it would have ever got one. But I just know for a fact that I think this movie should not get a sequel whatsoever. But Spirited Away is a cinematic masterpiece, not even as far as anime goes, just like in general. Like, it is a really good film, and I know he never would, but I think it would be an insult mostly. But I mean, of course everyone will watch it because the first one is amazing, but it just doesn't need a sequel. It just is great by itself. I got 3 more, and then we'll head on now. And then the next one is Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump was perfect. I do think there is a book to this film. I never read the book for this film, and I do think there is a sequel that has his son taking on the world and having like adventures like that, and historic moments, and having like pivotal like moments with celebrities and famous politicians and whatnot. I don't know, but I never read the book. I think his father, the sequel of the book, his father, like the Forrest Gump we knew, Tom Hanks, passes away, and he wants to bury his ashes or something on a mountain or something like that. Or he said he wants him to go live his life after raising him and whatnot. And they talk about the flashback scenes with, I don't know. I think it's something that people should read, maybe. And maybe the book did a well job. Did well and a good job writing, but as far as films go, I don't think this should ever do a sequel. Not even if it brought back Emily Osment, or not Emily Osment. What's his name? Haley Joel Osment. That was his name. I think Emily Osment is his sister. That was in Hannah Montana. But yeah, Forrest Gump should not ever get a sequel as far as a film goes. I think that's one of the best films, and definitely top 100 of all time. Definitely did a really good job, and then with everything, obviously there's enough historic events to do it, but I just don't think it needs to, because it wouldn't be as well done, and obviously we'll lose that if Tom Hanks is not part of the project in any way. I think it would lose a lot of its character. But yeah, I just don't think that needs one. Another one is a musical. I feel like this one you could get away with it in some way or form. Another version of it maybe, but I don't think it should be done. They ended their storyline really well with Sebastian and it's Mia, isn't it? Yep, Mia. But they ended the film with pretty well with Sebastian and Mia in La La Land. I don't think La La Land would actually. I take that back. I don't think it would do well with a sequel. I don't know how they would do it, but I just don't think it should be done. It's ended their story. Like, it literally ended their story. Like, we went past, future, all that. It just went through like years of like storyline, and they kind of wrapped it up, their storyline at the end for it. So the last film that I'll mention to you is one of my favorite films, probably confidently will say top 25 films of all time. It came out recently, which is like shocking that it's like that high up for me. I feel like, but it's definitely an A24 film. It is Everything Everywhere All at Once. For everything in my being, please do not ever make a sequel to this film. Not that I don't want it, because I don't think it would be done just as well, obviously. Like, don't let studios push you around. The Daniels, who are the directors of the film, get in there. It did its job. It did it well. It ended perfectly. It's, in my opinion, a borderline perfect film. Do not make a sequel to this film. I will definitely not see it, because I know I'll be disappointed. Or I feel like I would strongly be disappointed. But please, whatever you do, to all these films that I just mentioned, do not make sequels to them. Please. Especially that last one I just mentioned. Do not make a sequel to it. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know how to end well in some aspects, but I didn't want to like blabber on about those are my, like, the cliche kind of like, those are my top films of don't make sequels to. But I don't know. I want to make more lists like this. Tell me what you thought. Tell me other movies that you think that won't or that shouldn't have sequels. I do have another list that I'm making. I do have other lists that I'm working on similarly. It might be something along the lines of just like movies that have great sequels that were not expected. Movies that need sequels, I feel like would be a really good discussion to have. And then other topics on top of my head, it's just like why intensity or tension matters in film and stuff like that. I don't know. Tell me what you thought. Tell me about what you thought about this list. What other movies should not have sequels, and then we'll go from there. But other than that, this has been Realism the Podcast. Long live cinema.